Give Gavin your room, Valerie said, or pack your bags and leave. Her fork struck the dinner plate hard enough to make the glasses shake. Felicia Bishop looked across the table at her stepmother. Valerie was 57. Her face was calm now, almost satisfied, as though the decision had already been made. Beside her, Gavin stared down at his food. He was 27 years old. He had moved back into the house 6 days earlier after losing his job and ending a long relationship. Felicia understood that he needed help. What she did not understand was why helping Gavin required erasing her. I offered him the guest room, Felicia said. The guest room is too small, Valerie replied. You have a good salary. You can afford an apartment. Felicia was 33. She worked as a financial analyst in downtown Portland. She had also spent the last 14 months helping care for her father while paying the property taxes, the electric bill, and most of the repairs on the house. Gavin finally looked up. You barely use that room during the day, he said. Felicia studied him. He did not sound embarrassed. He sounded prepared. Then Valerie reached beside her chair and placed 2 empty cardboard boxes on the floor. We thought you could start tonight. That was the second blow. This was not an argument that had gone too far. They had planned it. Felicia set her napkin beside her plate. As she pushed back her chair, something under the table caught her eye. A blue folder rested near Gavin's shoe. On the cover was a photograph of the house. Across the top, in bold letters, were the words, "Private sale information." Felicia bent down as though she had dropped her phone. She saw a second page inside the folder. It listed a photographer's appointment for Monday morning. At the bottom was one sentence that made her breathing slow. All owners have approved the sale. Her name appeared beneath it. So did a signature. It looked like hers. But Felicia had never signed anything. She stood and faced Valerie. All right, she said. I'll pack tonight. Valerie smiled. Gavin exhaled, relieved. Neither of them noticed Felicia lift her phone from the table. Neither of them saw her photograph the folder before she walked upstairs. They thought they had won a bedroom. Felicia now knew they were trying to take much more than that. She packed one suitcase. Then she placed her father's old brass key inside her coat pocket. It did not open the front door. It opened something Valerie believed Felicia had forgotten. Hello, my friends. I'm Eleanor Brooks. If stories about family, truth, and dignity matter to you, subscribe and stay with me. Because that forged signature was only the first part of what Felicia discovered. Felicia drove for 20 minutes before pulling into a small extended-stay hotel near Beaverton. She did not call Valerie. She did not answer Gavin's messages. By the time she reached her room, he had sent 4. The first said she was overreacting. The second said Valerie had only been trying to help him. The third asked whether Felicia could still cover the electric bill before Friday. The fourth simply read, "You left the house. That was your choice." Felicia placed her phone face down on the desk. That message mattered. It sounded less like guilt and more like preparation. She opened her laptop and logged into the household accounts. For the past year, most of the bills had been paid automatically from her checking account. Electricity, internet, home insurance, a repair loan for the furnace. She did not cancel anything connected to the property itself. Not yet. But she removed Gavin from her credit card. She froze the secondary card Valerie used for household purchases. Then she downloaded 12 months of statements and saved copies in 3 places. Numbers did not explain motives. But they did preserve facts. At 8:15 the next morning, Felicia called the Multnomah County Recording Office. She gave the clerk the property address and her father's full name. The clerk found the current record quickly. Valerie Bishop was listed. So was Felicia. Felicia sat straighter. Can you tell me when my name was added? There was a pause. The clerk said the digital system only showed the most recent recording. The older transfer documents had been moved to archived storage. Felicia would need to submit a formal request. How long will that take? Usually 10 business days, the clerk said. Sometimes longer. Felicia looked at the photograph on her phone. The real estate photographer was scheduled for Monday. 2 days away. I need the original ownership history before then. I understand, the clerk replied. But archived records cannot be released over the phone. That was the first wall. Felicia had proof that her name belonged on the property. What she did not yet have was the document explaining why. Without it, Valerie could claim the listing form was legitimate. Felicia thanked the clerk and ended the call. A second later, her phone lit up. This time, it was not Gavin. It was a message from Valerie. Since you chose to move out, we need you to sign one final form so the house can be managed properly. Attached was a document titled Voluntary Release of Property Interest. Felicia read the first page. Then she reached into her coat pocket and closed her hand around her father's brass key. Valerie did not know what it opened. But someone inside that house clearly knew Felicia's ownership was real. The brass key had belonged to Felicia's father. He gave it to her 2 months before he passed away. At the time, he had been sitting in the small study at the back of the house, wrapped in a gray cardigan, with a stack of old tax folders beside him. Keep this, he had said. Felicia asked what it opened. Her father smiled. Something your mother thought was worth saving. He never explained more. Later that same morning, Felicia called their longtime neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez. Valerie and Gavin just left, the woman said. They took Gavin's truck. I heard them talking about furniture. Felicia drove back to the house. Her key still worked. Inside, the dining table had already been cleared. The 2 cardboard boxes from the night before were now upstairs. Her clothes had been folded into them. Not packed carefully. Folded quickly. The guest room door stood open. Gavin's shoes were already lined against the wall. Felicia did not touch them. She walked to the room she had used while caring for her father. The bed had been stripped. Her mother's old sewing basket was gone from the windowsill. That hurt more than the boxes. Her mother had sat in that same spot when Felicia was a child, repairing school uniforms and humming along with the radio. Felicia had never fought for the room because it was larger. She had held onto it because it was the last place in the house that still felt unchanged. But she had not come back for memories. She had come for the key. Felicia crossed the hallway and entered her father's study. The lower cabinet beside his desk stood slightly open. Felicia knelt and pulled the door toward her. The shelf was empty. For deep marks remained in the dust where a metal document box had once rested. She looked at the brass key in her palm. Its narrow shape matched the small lock she remembered on that box. Felicia stared at the clean rectangle in the dust. Something had been stored there for years. Something heavy enough to leave 4 deep marks in the wood. A metal document box. She remembered it now. Her father used to pull it out once a year, usually near tax season. He never opened it in front of Valerie. Felicia reached into the cabinet and ran her fingers along the back panel. A folded index card had been taped inside. Her father's handwriting covered one side. Felicia read the first line twice. If this box is missing, do not argue with anyone in the house. Call Arthur Pendleton. Below that was a phone number. And one final sentence. The house is not the only thing they will ask you to give up. Felicia photographed the card. Then she heard a vehicle turn into the driveway. Gavin's truck. They were back early. Felicia closed the cabinet and slipped the index card into her coat pocket. The truck door slammed outside. Then another. She stepped into the hallway just as Gavin came through the back entrance carrying a roll of packing tape. Valerie followed him with 2 shopping bags. Both stopped when they saw Felicia. For 1 second, no one spoke. Then Valerie's face hardened. What are you doing here? Felicia kept her voice even. My name is on the property record. You moved out, Valerie said. You made your choice. Gavin looked past Felicia toward the study. That glance told her more than his words could have. He knew what the brass key opened. Felicia moved one step closer. Where is the metal document box? Gavin gave a short laugh. I don't know what you're talking about. Valerie set the bags on the counter. There was no box. Felicia looked at the dust on Gavin's sleeve. Gray dust. The same color as the inside of her father's cabinet. She did not argue. Instead, she lifted her phone and opened the photo of the empty shelf. For marks in the wood. A clean outline where the box had been. Gavin's jaw tightened. Valerie noticed. That was the first crack between them. Then Felicia heard a soft electronic chime from the dining room. A tablet lay on the table beside the blue real estate folder. The screen had lit up with a new message. Photographer confirmed for Monday. Please make sure all personal items are removed from the primary bedroom and study. Felicia read it before Valerie crossed the room and flipped the tablet face down. The message was not from a family friend. It came from a local real estate office. They were farther along than she had thought. You need to leave, Valerie said. Felicia looked at Gavin. Did you send them my signature? His eyes shifted toward the window. I said leave. Valerie reached for the tablet. Felicia stepped back and photographed the sender's name before the screen went dark. Then Gavin walked to the front door and opened it. The gesture was calm. Too calm. He had already emptied part of the study. Now he was trying to make her look like the intruder. Felicia walked toward the door. As she passed the kitchen, she noticed a small receipt near the trash can. A private mailbox service. Opened 3 weeks earlier in Gavin's name. The same week her father's metal box disappeared. Felicia picked it up. Gavin moved quickly. He took the receipt from her hand and tore it in half. But he was too late. She had seen the address. And she had already memorized the box number. Felicia waited until she was back in her car before calling Arthur Pendleton. The number on her father's card was still active. A receptionist answered and transferred her to him. Arthur's voice was older than she remembered, but steady. When Felicia mentioned her father's name, he went quiet. I wondered when you might call, he said. That sentence tightened something in her chest. Felicia told him about the dinner. The listing folder. The signature she had never written. The missing metal box. And the private mailbox receipt Gavin had torn from her hand. Arthur did not interrupt. When she finished, he asked one question. Did Valerie send you anything to sign? Felicia opened the message on her phone. A voluntary release of property interest. Do not sign it, Arthur said. Do not reply to it. Send me a copy. Felicia emailed the document while they were still on the phone. Arthur called her back 20 minutes later. The good news, he said, is that Valerie cannot sell the entire property without your approval. Felicia closed her eyes. It was the first clear answer she had received. Her name on the county record meant something. The forged signature did not erase it. But Arthur was not finished. The bad news is that this release form was not prepared by a real estate agent. Then who prepared it? That is what I need to find out. He explained that the form used language normally found in estate settlements, not ordinary home sales. Someone was trying to make it appear that Felicia had already surrendered her share. Not just agreed to move. Not just approved a listing. Surrendered her legal interest. Arthur asked her to come to his office that afternoon. When Felicia arrived, he had 3 folders waiting on the table. One held the county record. One held the form Valerie had sent. The third was empty. That one was supposed to contain the documents your father left with me, Arthur said. Felicia stared at him. What documents? Arthur folded his hands. Your father signed instructions 2 years ago. He asked me to release them only if there was a dispute over the house. Then where are they? Arthur looked toward the empty folder. They were removed from our off-site storage last month. Felicia felt the room grow still. By whom? Arthur turned a single page toward her. At the bottom was a pickup signature. Gavin Cole. Her stepbrother had not simply taken a box from the study. He had gone looking for the same documents her father had tried to protect. Arthur called the storage company while Felicia sat across from him. He asked for the release record connected to her father's files. The manager placed him on hold. A minute later, an email arrived. Arthur opened the attachment. Gavin had not collected the documents under his own authority. He had presented a signed authorization letter. Felicia's name appeared at the bottom. So did the same false signature from the real estate listing. Arthur leaned back. They used one forged signature to support another. Felicia studied the page. The wording was careful. It claimed she had asked Gavin to retrieve family records on her behalf. Someone had even attached a copy of her driver's license. An old copy. The address listed was from 3 years earlier. Felicia knew where it came from. Her father had kept copies of insurance forms and tax documents inside the metal box. Gavin had taken the box first. Then he used what was inside to reach the attorney's files. Arthur picked up the phone again. This time, he called the county recording office. Felicia listened as he asked about the archive title request she had submitted. The clerk found it. A certified copy had just been scanned into the system. Arthur downloaded the record and turned his monitor toward Felicia. The document was 20 years old. Her biological mother had signed it shortly before her illness became serious. It transferred her half of the house directly to Felicia. Her father had retained the other half. Years later, his will left that share to Valerie. That made Felicia and Valerie equal co-owners. Not after her father's death. Not through Valerie. Directly to her. Felicia read the recorded date twice. She had been 13. Her father had managed the property for her until she became an adult. That was why her name remained on the county record. That was why Valerie needed the release form. They had always known Felicia owned half the house. The argument over the bedroom had never been about space. It was meant to push her out. Make her look as though she had left willingly. Then pressure her to sign away the rest. Arthur began drafting an emergency notice to the real estate office and title company. Felicia stopped him before he sent it. Not yet. He looked at her. She placed the release form beside the forged authorization. If they think I know everything, they'll hide whatever is left. Arthur understood. You want them to bring out the original documents. Felicia nodded. Then she typed a message to Valerie. I'm willing to discuss the release. Bring every document connected to the house on Monday morning. I want to see what I'm signing. The reply came less than a minute later. Valerie agreed. Too quickly. Felicia turned her phone toward Arthur. For the first time since dinner, she was no longer reacting to their plan. She was setting the next step herself. Sunday morning, Felicia met Arthur outside the private mailbox center. The address matched the receipt Gavin had torn in half. Inside, a clerk searched the account number Felicia had memorized. Yes, the clerk said. That box belongs to Gavin Cole. Arthur showed his identification and explained that property records may have been collected under a false authorization. The clerk's expression changed, but she shook her head. I can confirm the account exists. I cannot release copies without a formal request. Can you confirm whether legal documents were delivered here? Arthur asked. The clerk checked the screen again. One package arrived from an archive service last month. Another came from a title company 3 days ago. Felicia looked at Arthur. The title company was already involved. That meant Valerie and Gavin were not merely preparing a listing. They were trying to move the sale forward before Felicia could stop it. Arthur asked the clerk to preserve every delivery record connected to the box. Then Felicia's phone began vibrating. A family group message had been sent to 12 relatives. Valerie had written it. She claimed Felicia had abandoned the house after a disagreement. She said Felicia was now threatening to take money from a grieving widow and her unemployed son. Several relatives had already replied. One called Felicia selfish. Another asked why she could not simply let Valerie keep the home. Gavin had attached a photograph of Felicia's empty bedroom. The 2 cardboard boxes sat in the middle of the floor. It looked as though Felicia had packed willingly. Felicia stared at the image. They were creating a story before Monday. Arthur lowered his voice. This is pressure. They want you isolated before you walk into that meeting. A new email arrived. It came from the real estate agent. The photographer's appointment had been changed. The house would now be shown Monday at 9 in the morning. The exact time Valerie had agreed to meet Felicia. Felicia read the message twice. They're not bringing the documents to me, she said. They're bringing buyers. Arthur nodded. And they may expect you to sign while everyone is watching. That was the third wall. If Felicia stopped the showing too early, Gavin might hide the original records. If she waited too long, Valerie could present the false documents as settled fact. Felicia opened the family group chat. She did not defend herself. She sent one sentence. I will address the house on Monday, with the original records present. Then she turned to Arthur. Notify the title company that ownership is disputed. Should I notify Valerie too? Felicia shook her head. Not yet. She looked through the glass doors toward the parking lot. Across the street, Gavin sat inside his truck. He had been watching them the entire time. Arthur did not drive away right away. He waited until Gavin's truck left the parking lot. Then he called Felicia. Do not go back to the hotel yet, he said. Meet me at my office. 20 minutes later, Felicia sat across from him while he opened an email from the title company. His dispute notice had reached their compliance department. The sale had been paused. But the company had also released the documents Valerie and Gavin submitted. Arthur opened the first attachment. It was not a listing agreement. It was a payoff statement. Gavin owed $68,000 to a private lender. The loan had been taken out 8 months earlier to finance a small fitness studio that never opened. The full balance was due in 10 days. Felicia looked at the screen. What does that have to do with the house? Arthur opened the next page. Valerie had signed a promise stating that Gavin's debt would be repaid from her share of the home sale. Then he opened a third document. Felicia's name appeared on it. It claimed she had agreed to let the lender receive payment before any ownership dispute was resolved. The signature was false. Again. Felicia leaned back slowly. The bedroom had never been the real issue. The private sale was not about giving Gavin a fresh start. It was about covering a debt before the lender took legal action. Arthur pointed to the dates. The loan came first, he said. Then your father's records were removed. Then the mailbox was opened. Then the listing began. Felicia thought about the dinner. Valerie had spoken like the decision belonged to her. But Gavin had been the one watching. The one moving documents. The one using old copies of Felicia's identification. The one sitting across the street that morning. He started this, Felicia said. Arthur nodded. And Valerie chose to help him. That did not excuse her. But it changed the shape of the betrayal. Valerie was not simply trying to favor her son. She had tied her own future to his debt. Now she needed the house sold quickly enough to save both of them. Arthur opened the final attachment. A mobile notary had been scheduled to arrive at the house Monday at 8:30. 30 minutes before the buyers. The appointment description read. Final family signatures. Felicia stared at the words. They expected her to walk into a crowded house. They expected Valerie to cry, Gavin to pressure her, relatives to watch, and a notary to place the release form in front of her. Arthur closed the file. We can stop the meeting now. Felicia looked at the fake signatures, then at the payoff deadline. No, she said. If we stop it now, they will deny everything. She picked up her phone. Let them believe Monday is still going exactly as planned. Sunday night, Valerie called from Gavin's phone. Felicia almost let it go to voicemail. Then she answered. Valerie did not begin with anger. She sounded tired. Gavin told me you met with a lawyer. Felicia said nothing. Valerie continued. We are trying to protect this family. Your brother made one mistake. He needs time to recover. One mistake does not create 3 false signatures, Felicia said. The line went quiet. Then Valerie lowered her voice. You have a career. Savings. Options. Gavin has none. There it was. The argument beneath every demand. Felicia had worked hard, so her future was considered less urgent. Gavin had failed, so everyone else was expected to absorb the cost. Valerie took a slow breath. If you sign tomorrow, the debt gets paid. I keep the house. Gavin gets another chance. No one has to know about any of this. And my share? You will be fine. Felicia closed her eyes. Not because the words surprised her. Because they did not. Then Valerie added one final threat. The study is being cleared before the showing. Anything your father left behind will be removed by 8 in the morning. Felicia stood. What do you mean, removed? Old papers. Boxes. Furniture. Things no buyer wants to see. The metal document box. Her father's letter. Whatever records Gavin had taken from Arthur's storage. They might all be inside that house. Arthur had already paused the title process. Legally, the sale could not move forward. But a legal hold would not stop someone from emptying a cabinet before sunrise. Felicia called Arthur immediately. He advised her not to enter the house alone. He could request formal preservation of the records, but the order would not arrive before morning. We can stop the transaction, he said. I cannot promise we can recover documents after they disappear. That was the crisis. Felicia could stay away and protect herself. Or she could return to the house and force the truth into the open before Valerie and Gavin had time to erase it. At 7:30 Monday morning, Felicia parked across from the house. Cars already lined the curb. Relatives. The notary. The real estate agent. Even 2 potential buyers had arrived early. Arthur sat beside her. Once we go in, he said, there will be no quiet family resolution. Felicia looked at the bedroom window. Her curtains were gone. Then she saw Gavin carry the metal document box from the study toward the garage. He placed it beside a black trash bin. Felicia opened the car door. Good, she said. Now everyone will see exactly what they plan to throw away. Felicia crossed the street before Gavin could lift the metal box again. Set it down, she said. Every conversation near the driveway stopped. Gavin looked toward Valerie. She stood beside the front door with the notary and 2 relatives. Her expression changed when she saw Arthur. This is a private family matter, Valerie said. Arthur stepped beside Felicia. Not anymore. The real estate agent walked over from the porch. She looked confused. The showing begins in 20 minutes. No, Arthur said. It does not. He handed her a printed notice from the title company. The sale had been placed on hold because ownership was disputed. The agent read the first page, then looked at Valerie. You told me every owner had approved. They had, Valerie said quickly. Felicia changed her mind after moving out. Felicia took out her phone. I never approved the sale. She showed the agent the photograph from dinner. The listing folder. The false signature. The notary stepped closer. That is the same signature on the release form I was asked to witness this morning. Arthur opened his briefcase and placed 3 documents on the hood of his car. The county ownership record. The false authorization used to remove files from storage. And the payoff agreement connected to Gavin's debt. The relatives moved closer. No one spoke. Valerie looked at Gavin. Tell them this was a misunderstanding. Gavin's face tightened. You said she would sign once everyone was here. The words came out too fast. Valerie turned toward him. Gavin. But the damage was done. Felicia looked at her stepbrother. You arranged the notary, the buyers, and the family because you thought I would be too embarrassed to refuse. Gavin dropped his eyes. Valerie stepped between them. We were trying to save the house. No, Felicia said. You were trying to sell my half of it to pay his debt. The real estate agent closed her folder. I am ending my involvement until ownership and signatures are verified. The buyers walked back toward their car. The notary gathered her papers. Then Arthur pointed toward the metal box beside the trash bin. That box contains records connected to the property. It must be preserved. Gavin moved in front of it. It belongs to my family. Felicia held up the brass key. My father gave me the key. She inserted it into the lock. It turned easily. Inside were the missing files from Arthur's storage. But resting on top was something Felicia had never seen before. A sealed envelope in her father's handwriting. Across the front, he had written. For Valerie, if there is ever a dispute over this house. Valerie did not reach for the envelope. Felicia held it out. My father wrote your name on it. The driveway had gone silent. Even Gavin stopped moving. Finally, Valerie took the envelope and broke the seal. Inside was a short letter. Her hands began to shake before she reached the second paragraph. Arthur stepped closer, but he did not interrupt. Valerie read the page in silence. Then she whispered, he knew. Felicia looked at her. Knew what? Valerie lowered the letter. Felicia took it from her and read the final lines. Her father had written that he had explained the ownership of the house many times. Felicia owned half. Valerie knew it. He had also written that helping Gavin did not give either of them the right to take from Felicia. Under the letter was a printed email from Valerie to Felicia's father. It was dated 18 months earlier. The message said, I understand the house is half Felicia's. I only want the right to remain here after you are gone. Arthur held up another page from the box. It was Valerie's signed acknowledgement of the same arrangement. There had never been a misunderstanding. She had known exactly what Felicia owned. One of the relatives near the porch stepped back. Another looked at Gavin. Valerie's voice became small. I was afraid. Felicia waited. Valerie looked toward the house. I thought if the debt came due, Gavin would lose everything. I thought you would recover. You always do. Felicia nodded once. That is what you kept telling yourself. Gavin finally spoke. I can fix the loan. Arthur answered him. You may negotiate your debt. But you cannot use Felicia's property to do it. He explained the next steps clearly. The private sale was cancelled. The false documents would be preserved and reviewed. The house could only move forward in one of two ways. Valerie could buy Felicia's share at a fair appraisal. Or the property would be listed openly and sold under a formal agreement. Valerie looked at Felicia. You would make me leave? Felicia's voice stayed calm. You told me to pack my bags in a house you knew I owned. No one defended Valerie this time. Felicia gave her 30 days to arrange financing. Arthur later confirmed what everyone already suspected. Valerie could not afford the buyout. The house would be sold publicly. Gavin's lender would receive nothing from Felicia's share. The money connected to his debt would remain his responsibility. Before leaving, Felicia walked upstairs one final time. Her room was still filled with boxes. She did not unpack them. She took her mother's sewing basket from Gavin's closet. Then she removed her father's lamp from the study. At the front door, Valerie asked whether there was anything she could say. Felicia looked back at the dining table. "Yes," she said. "You can stop calling sacrifice a duty when only one person is expected to make it." 3 months later, the house sold. The sale was public, properly documented, and approved by both owners. After closing costs, Felicia received her legal share. Valerie received hers. Gavin's private debt remained his responsibility. Felicia did not celebrate when the final papers were signed. She stood in the empty living room for a long moment and listened to the sound of her footsteps. The house looked smaller without the furniture. Her father's chair was gone. Her mother's sewing basket rested safely in Felicia's car. So did the brass key and the lamp from the study. Those were the things she chose to keep. Not because they were valuable. Because they still felt honest. Felicia used part of the money to buy a modest 2-bedroom cottage outside Portland. It had a small backyard, a narrow cedar deck, and one quiet room she turned into an office. She placed her father's lamp beside the window. Her mother's sewing basket sat on a shelf nearby. For the first time in years, every object in the room was there because Felicia wanted it there. No one asked her to move it. No one asked her to give the room away. Valerie moved into a smaller apartment across town. She found steady office work and began rebuilding her finances. Gavin rented a room with 2 co-workers and started making payments on his loan. Felicia did not rescue either of them. But she did not spend her days hoping they would suffer. Their lives were no longer hers to manage. A month after the sale, Valerie mailed her a letter. There were no excuses inside. Only an apology. She admitted that she had confused protecting Gavin with taking from Felicia. She wrote that Felicia's strength had made it easy to pretend she needed less. Felicia read the letter twice. Then she placed it in the drawer beside the brass key. She did not call Valerie that day. She was not ready. But she did not throw the letter away. Some doors, Felicia understood, should not be opened quickly. Others should remain closed until the person outside has learned how to knock. That evening, she carried a cup of coffee onto the deck and watched the last light settle over the trees. She had not saved the old house. She had saved something more important. Her right to decide what home meant. I'm Eleanor Brooks. And I've learned that the strongest person in a family is often the one everyone expects to sacrifice without being asked. Felicia chose peace, but she did not confuse peace with surrender. Do you think she should eventually give Valerie another chance? Or would the forged signatures have ended that relationship for you? I'd like to hear how you see it.